life surrounded by technology? Do you feel less than human because you no longer skin and catch your rabbit before cooking it over an open fire? Do you feel less than human because you use machines to do your washing, cooking and cleaning? Do you feel less than human because you extend your abilities with calculators, computers and telephones? No, I thought not. In fact, the more technology you have access to, the more powerful you feel. So why do you see me as less than human, as powerless, because I use a wheelchair? Why do you cherish your mobile, but shrink in horror from my chair? Why do you see my use of it as a tragedy? Why do you declare that you would rather die than be like me? Is that why you describe my powered chair as an electric chair, because you see it as an instrument of death? Perhaps I shouldn't blame you. Perhaps I should look to your role models. The Queen Mother wouldn't be seen dead in a wheelchair, and the Pope won't be seen alive in one. They'd rather hide inside than appear on wheels. That's a great message for the kids, isn't it? The funny thing is, you still don't choose to walk. No. You sit down in your car and you drive to work. Then you sit down at your desk all day, and then you sit down and drive home again before you sit down in front of the TV for the evening. In fact, the more you walk, the lower your status. If you can't afford a car and have to walk to the bus stop, you feel inferior. If you can't afford the bus and have to walk everywhere, you despair. But if you see me rolling along happily in my chair, you think it's a tragedy. Maybe that's why you think it's normal to build roads, but not ramps. Normal to ban all of us from getting anywhere unless we can walk. In which case you build roads so you don't have to. Oh, don't get me started. The thing is, I love my wheelchair. To me, it's an object of desire. When I got my first powered chair, a friend dedicated a song to it. I threw a party. For the first time in 10 years, I could sit comfortably, go anywhere, do anything. First time I took my chair out, though, to a conference, it was a different story. The invisibility cloak hid me from people I'd known for years. Others sympathised with my tragedy instead of toasting my new freedom. The promise of wheelchair access turned out to be an empty one. It literally made me sick. The following day I was sent home, along with new impairments. My beautiful new chair turned up 3 weeks later, broken into pieces. I was blamed for expecting too much, for expecting things to be organised in such a way that I could participate fully just because it was entirely possible to do so. I thought that I had rights, the right to be equal, the right not to be discriminated against. But that was just on paper. As a disabled person, I didn't have any right to legal assistance, and so a barrister argued successfully that as a disabled person, I could only expect to ask for charity. I should expect to beg for someone to take messages rather than to talk to my friends and colleagues myself. I should expect to beg for someone to collect my food and drink rather than collecting them for myself. I should expect to beg for help and then be grateful. And I should never be so ungrateful as to complain when things go wrong, even if I was permanently injured as a result. Now, don't get me wrong. People are continually creating obstructions for wheelchair users, and if you offer me help to overcome them, I will be grateful. But why is it considered normal to designate someone as vulnerable and then leave them to the mercy of strangers? And is it really my function in life to make other people feel good about themselves through helping me? Am I deluded to expect equality? Do you think so? Do you think I should be expected to beg for help rather than doing things for myself, just because of thoughtlessness or poor design? Or do you want me begging for it? I saw a physiotherapist last year because following the conference, I'd been seriously ill for a couple of years by then. She said to me, "What are your goals?" "I'm getting a new high-tech manual wheelchair," I said. and I want to get well enough to use it. Oh no, she said. Once you get into that chair, you'll never get out of it. Funny, you'd think she'd know better. Her goal was to make me normal, but I already am normal. Wake up and smell the coffee. Nature doesn't make mistakes. She creates human beings in all our rich varieties. Accidents happen, illnesses occur, and we're all going to die. Live with it. I'd like to add life is what you make it, but the fact is, life is what we all make it. But is it normal to struggle down the street on a stick or stay at home rather than rolling free? Is it normal to be in pain rather than sitting comfortably? The next time you see some poor old soul struggling up the street, hanging onto the railings, ask yourself why they're not using a wheelchair. It's always slightly surreal going to a hospital. The receptionists invariably tell me to take a seat over there. I do always point out that I already have a seat, just for the hell of it, but they still look puzzled. Then it's always a bit of a gamble whether or not the doctor can see through the invisibility cloak. Some doctors have special powers too, and have no difficulty whatsoever in seeing me. But others can only see the wheelchair, and can't see me at all. Then they can only see the mental health problems that they consider to be an inevitable result of my personal tragedy, telling me my life must be a great disappointment. Or they consider that wheelchair use is in itself a sign of madness because they wouldn't be seen dead in one. It makes diagnosis of the real problem very slow, and it's not exactly scientific, is it? I saw a consultant recently who asked me how long I'd been in a wheelchair. I explained patiently how long I'd been a wheelchair user. You remember that? And I even thought to remind her that 95% of wheelchair users can walk a little, if not all the time. She wrote down, "The patient is wheelchair bound. Next time, I'm taking the handcuffs."
Ju 90, ladies and gentlemen. Favorite multimedia art terrorist.